Welcome everybody to the Puyo Nexus Puyo Puyo Tetris post-release roundtable. I'm your host, Abut, also known as Abut, also known as a lot of different names. We don't need to get into that. If everybody else here would like to introduce yourselves, first off, we have Panban Richard.
Good evening, morning, afternoon, however, how's it going?
It is great.
Nice.
A fine Saturday evening for us.
At the time of this recording.
After that, we have S2, also known as Stupid, also known as Stolsofter, also known as
Rude.
a lot of different things.
So my name is Stupid. Oh.
You know how many people like don't understand that at first? Well, actually, I didn't either. But
Oh, you mean S2PID or S2L Softener?
I realized it the moment I saw it.
Oh, I love it. I love it when the streamers get my name wrong. It's so funny. I just laugh and it's like, huh, how charming. Anyways, I'm Stupid. S2PID. I guess I'm the leader of the Puyo community right now. I love Puyo Puyo, yeah!
Okay, and our fourth guest, who you might have heard a little bit just now, is Tucker.
Hello, my name's Tucker. I do freelance for Puyo Nexus, including editing this podcast. What's up?
Oh, we're also brothers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're also related.
Totally blood related.
Yep.
We can give you proof. I'm blood type O. Tucker,
Yep.
say your O.
I'm blood type O as well.
Do you even know why blood type matters?
Huh? Of course you do. You gotta like, I don't,
Wow, we have a next guest. Who is this person?
Yeah, we have a very special guest today, Kataru.
Hi.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi, hello. I play the Tetris game. I'm not very good at Puyo, so I'm the, I guess, other perspective on this this side of the equation.
that's okay.
Yeah.
None of us are good at Tetris.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll come together. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll learn what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you know, in case you've been living under a rock, Puyo Puyo Tetris for the West, 13
Yeah!
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo.
Finally out. We did it.
Still so surreal to this day. It's like the fact that that came out, like, I don't know, Sega was very smart with that release, like, the fact that it came out on the Switch and the PS4 in English, especially when the Switch was still born, like, within a month's time, is, like, fantastic. Like, very job well done to the localization team for bringing it out.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of wish they did try to space it out, like, apart from Mario Kart 8 a little bit, but I think some people seem to actually like Puyo 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 Tetris more than Mario Kart 8, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. And to sort of like add on to that as well, like at first I had those same feelings too, but then when you start to look at the library and then when people had like so little to choose from, they have to choose which ones to rave about. The other one besides Mario Kart 8 and Breath of the Wild, of course, but that's like, you know, within a month's time, obviously, is Puyo Puyo Tetris. And then like they sort of like created this like community already where people are discovering how bad they are at Tetris when they play online, but you know, it did certainly like expand the community, that's for sure.
I felt like you jumped to that bad at Tetris part very quickly. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, like, I think Puyo Puyo Tetris is pretty mind-opening for people because, like, I mean, it's been a while since you had a Tetris game where you could actually go online and play, I think. I don't know. So yeah, people finally got a chance to meet some really high-level players. That's fun.
Yeah, there've been other games, but I feel like this is finally we have another solid console game that performs well and is not Tetris Ultimate, and
Sorry, just a natural gag reflex.
Bad memories.
yeah, so
Yeah,
Actually, I always forget.
yeah, I do feel like this is a good position to be in where we have a Puyo game and a Tetris game, and it's solid in both departments for as solid as it can be, and it has online, there's an actual community. There's people that I see playing it in like my circle of friends that I didn't know would play a Puyo or a Tetris game, and they're like into it. So it's like, okay, cool. I just found out that everyone's into this, so it seems like a good time for both games.
Yeah, I'm also really glad that they managed to get the demo out in English also.
Yeah, that demo's a really powerful tool for getting people to at least try the game.
And I'm glad that they nerfed it to 1 point, first to one, so that way, like, people who are playing it in English, that already, like, establishes the accessibility point, but then if they want to play more, they have to buy the game, compared to the Japanese demo.
What demo?
Okay, so let's back up a second. So the story behind the Puyo Puyo Tetris demo for the Switch is that the Japanese version lets you play like 4 players versus mode, swap mode, like 16 characters, and you can play matches with each set is 3 points. Like
Yeah, you can
first
do like
to 3
full,
points.
like everything in the full game in terms of like match settings. It was in the demo also.
So yeah, it was like actually really really good. You could hold a tournament on it if you wanted to. So some people, they started bragging super hard on the internet. It's like, I don't need to buy the full game when this demo does everything, which is mildly true, but also not, because you actually like go online and get better. You actually start a real competitive community. But no, people like to brag. So then Sega America, they cut down some of the features on the US demo. Like they took out the HD rumble.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. Because I mean, a lot of people are saying, oh, this Puyo Puyo Tetris demo is actually a really good demonstration of HD rumble.
Yeah, I don't know.
Quite
Shrug.
agree with them, but
Do you know what I
Yeah.
don't really like about how people reacted to the English demo though? Everyone kept saying like, oh my gosh, the voice acting is so bad. And I'm like, how do you know anything about the voice acting? You can't even do a 7-chain. Like, you can't hear all the voices. So like, are they just like lying?
I'm just gonna raise my hand here by saying that normally when it comes to English voices, people would always generate their perception from the Japanese performances, and people tend to forget that Japanese performances is just one interpretation of the product of the characters and plot and whatnot. So when they hear something that they're not accustomed to, they automatically label it as it's bad, like henceforth, because hey, some people, like, seriously, in Japan buy English copies of games that have English voice acting just to hear it in English, and they would like have it for the exact same reason why people would like Japanese dubs here in America, because it's just plain different. And I mean, it's kind of a frail foundation to stand on, because again, people often just completely reject what they find different, and actually no, what they find familiar compared to what's different, essentially, if that kind of makes sense.
I mean, it's kind of funny because I think like people, when we started getting like at those like Nintendo Switch events, like first like hands-on impressions of the English dub, people were like kind of worried because it didn't sound so hot. And then like after the full game came out, like nobody's complained except for like maybe a couple of grognards, but we can ignore.
No, I mean, like when the full game
wait.
came out, you had the story mode, and that made the whole dubbing make sense. I feel.
Yes.
So like people had less of a reason to complain.
Yeah, I feel like it was actually a really smart idea for them not to put in dual audio in the English release, because you got to hear like the full dub in adventure mode. And I think that like helped people say, okay, I understand this. This is actually really great.
A part of it also has to go in line with the licensing for Japanese voice actors whenever you do dual audio. Something that people tend to forget now because of how spoiled we are with this Gaia and whatnot, that
Persona 5.
Yeah, Persona 5 as well. Dual audio is very hard to get, because not only are you getting licensing fees for the English voice actors for whatever union you're using or non-union actors, you're also trying to get the licensing for a performance that was done in Japan, like for Japanese actors. So it does cost a lot of money to have that done. And I remember referencing the Tales series, how in 2013 and 2014 we didn't really have dual audio for the recent modern releases, but then in 2015 they generated enough funds to create dual audio. It's again another thing that people tend to overlook.
Yeah, plus it's like, this game is already, at least in the West, it's already a budget release. In case you're not aware, it's in the US at least, it is $30 for the PS4 and Nintendo Switch Digital, and $40 for physical Switch edition.
I think a lot of people's like dual audio expectations came from the Nintendo Switch having, the region free eShop like weird stuff. So like if you buy it like on the Japanese eShop for some reason, like some certain games will show up as purchased on like your US eShop already, and like some games had like they did have dual audio. Like I know like the Breath of the Wild, it got like language options like recently patched in. And there was actually people going on like, wow, if Breath of the Wild can do it, Puyo Puyo Tetris can do it too.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, this is Nintendo, who's like super rich, and Sega, who's kind of like being budget about this game. Like, this is like
It's definitely something that has to be set by publishers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, people have like sort of unreasonable expectations. But
Yeah, I think
that's how it
I think
is.
Puyo Puyo Tetris is actually it might actually be the first game that has separate store pages for the Japanese and English versions.
Yeah, it might be.
I mean, don't quote me on that because I don't pay attention to eShop that much.
Yeah, I think
But
that's the
That's what it
case.
seems like.
The Nintendo Switch is still pretty young, but it seems to be the case.
Do you know how it's set up on PS4 if you have both versions? Because I just ended up waiting out for the English version because I got my PS4 around when it was announced. If you have a Japanese disc, is it a different store page, or is it a different like game as the PS4 is concerned?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't
Well-
even think there is a store page you can
No,
access
there
on
is
the
not.
PS4.
Yeah, because
right?
it's
Because
not
digital.
There's no digital, licensing, I heard.
It's
potentially?
because Ubisoft still has the rights for that platform.
Yeah, that
so
makes sense.
their Tetris Ultimate is still there, but thankfully they don't have it for the Switch.
Man,
Yeah.
I hate Tetris
That's
politics.
kind of funny because if you use like the social media sharing functions in Puyo Puyo Tetris, like normally when you do that and like post to Twitter or whatever, it'll link to the store page of whatever game you're sharing.
Oh,
If you do it for a Puyo Puyo Tetris, it goes to a 404 error,
solid.
so it doesn't actually work.
Thanks,
That's kind of an
Ubisoft.
oversight. Oops. Yeah, thanks Ubisoft.
Well, more really just thanks the Tetris company for being so strict in the licensing terms that they give people.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I actually don't know much
and I
about
mean,
it.
it was,
Yeah, Ubisoft,
Yeah.
they
Who-
tried.
Who
We'll
actually
talk
knows about
about-
it though? Let's be real. Like, it's just kind of like this mysterious thing we kind of make assumptions about. Like, I don't know.
yeah, and it's kind of frustrating because obviously the people who like are affected by these decisions when we make the game, they can't talk about it because it's part of the Tetris licensing deal that they can't talk about it.
Yeah, but we've kind of worked out enough of what happens at different times. It's true, we don't have like a complete picture a lot of the time. We just get like radio silence from whatever company we're interested in hearing from for the most part. But if you like watch the patterns of how things get like removed from the shop store pages now that they're doing digital and things like that, or like which games don't come out on which consoles, you can start to like see, well, this person has the license right now, so we're just waiting. This is kind of what you can clearly see happen. And it's like, oh, suddenly there's like news on the TGM4 front, although that's still shaky. And hey, look, Western Puyo Puyo Tetris. So I guess their physical license expired. And, that's kind of how that goes.
But if Ubisoft can release Tetris Ultimate and then have all the other Tetris games kicked off the eShops, why can't Puyo Puyo Tetris be released on the eShop and then like have that kick off all the other games? I'll be okay with that outcome.
I mean,
I think a lot of people will be fine with that.
I think it just has to do with whatever licensing terms were issued when they wrote up the contracts.
Yeah,
You'd have to go to the Tetris company and ask them. But I mean, I think you can still get maybe the PS3 like EA and like PSP Minis EA copies. Something just happened with the Nintendo shops. I'm not really sure what happened on that side of things. I think you can, yeah. I'll look it up later.
Okay. Man, that Tetris license has caused so much drama. I remember back when it was coming out in on the 3DS, and then people were like, there were news posts saying, "Oh, you better pick up Tetris Game Boy and Tetris Access before it like disappears in the eShop." It's like, oh, what? How come? It's like I had to like buy it right away, and then like when they released Ultimate, I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the challenging thing. It's like I think I'd have to like go look back and find where that's been actually documented. But basically, supposedly because of like all of the like flood of games that came out in the PlayStation and like Saturn-ish era, and some of kind of questionable quality. If you look at some of the Japanese like budget ones, like the Tetris or Tetris X, I think they started going, okay, well, let's slow down here. Let's like quit polluting our own brand like by pushing out all of these games or letting everybody make a game and just like release one per platform per like year or per era or something. And that kind of comes into effect now, which is unfortunate because I think the quality isn't really the issue anymore. Like, you can look at, like, Arika or, Sega or, other people wanting to make a game and making a game and it's good. So now they actually kind of lock themselves out by, like, I think I can understand they don't want to be stuck in a position where they're confusing the market, like, which Tetris game do I get? But then you also have situations like this where it's like, okay, Ubisoft tried to do what they were trying to do with Tetris Ultimate, and that's not really picking up, and now we have to wait around for the market to kind of clear for somebody else to try. It's like everyone's waiting in line. I think Arika is probably waiting in line too and trying to figure out their situation with publishing, so...
Yeah, wasn't there supposed to be like a TGM announcement sometime in like... I heard it was supposed to be February. Then I heard something again was supposed to happen in March.
I can tell you. I can tell you what it was. So I think the reason why it got pushed off is because they thought they were going to be able to announce something. But the final tweet they made was, for the past year, Arc System Works was trying to talk with the Tetris company to be their publisher. But I think it was just kind of too challenging. So ArcSys kind of bowed out. And Arika just thanked them for trying and helping them to try to sort out things. And that Arika is still shopping around with different publishers to try to go to arcade, and I don't know if they're still trying to do console or worldwide, but they're at least trying to do what they're trying to do. They're still investigating options.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool that ArcSys is trying to do that. If you're not aware, ArcSys was formerly known as the publishers of primarily fighting games like Guilty Gear, BlazBlue.
Yeah.
Like, especially starting with this generation, though, they're starting to become like, the Japanese indie publisher. So they've been publishing a lot of like really small games, like I think what's the game? Nightwalk for the Vita.
You may be
like Yomawari, I think.
Yeah.
These like really small niche games.
You may be
cool.
confusing ArcSys and Axis a little bit. Arc System Works is the developer for Guilty Gear. And then Axis is a smaller, like, indie publisher over here that happens to publish the ArcSys games, such as Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, and some of the shmups and the smaller stuff. But Arc System Works is the actual developer in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do get those two confused a lot, but in this case, it is actually Arc System Works publishing a bunch of indie games.
Oh, that's good then. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Excellent. I did not know that.
So how about the online play?
It's I mean, like we said, a lot of people are suddenly finding out they're not actually good at Tetris.
So how about that mimetic line that we've all transformed from that one IGN review?
Yeah, the Tetris player is at a slight.
No, you have to say it with more confidence. Say it with more confidence.
The Tetris player is at a slight disadvantage.
Baloney!
The Tetris player is at a
yeah.
slight disadvantage. Repeat after me. The Tetris player is at a slight disadvantage.
Blasphemy!
Slight disadvantage.
Te-
Slight disadvantage. Okay, carry on.
Well, I mean, again, it's all because of like how like I remember tweeting about this recently, and then apparently it exploded a little bit. Thanks, S2. But essentially, a lot of people were responding to it and like having them say, well, it's because like people haven't been exposed to Tetris or took it seriously for quite some time. Or I mean, at the very least, the most that people would say when you would bring up Tetris when it comes to like hardcore gaming or the gaming communities and whatnot, they would bring up the TGM runs on AGDQs and whatnot. But because of the boom period during the 80s and mid to late 90s, people were still conditioned to how they would play Tetris, normally like sitting in front of their TV. But
they'd be like, oh yeah, I played Tetris on my calculator in high school math instead of doing math.
right. And like because of how they moved on from puzzle games aren't gonna wait for you. They're gonna keep evolving and growing. And when they finally were exposed to that kind of evolution, then they're slowly starting to realize, oh wait, Tetris. Oh crap! It's not how I remembered it. Who should we put a blame on?
Why are these pieces getting twisted into these holes? I didn't know you could do that.
I thought you need a line piece and that's it. Why are they coming more commonly now? What's going on?
The thing is, like, okay, I think, like, there is, like, a really annoying amount of people who, like, are talking online that, like, Tetris is, like, at a disadvantage. But, like, they're only coming, I don't know, I just feel like people are just being too quick to come to assumptions. the thing is, Puyo Puyo Tetris is actually really good at showing you the high level techniques that like have evolved nowadays. Like, okay, there's a lesson mode that apparently no one looked at that actually shows you how to do a T-spin double and a T-spin triple. Like, and it tells you it scores more points, so you would think it would also do like lots of garbage too, but no one wants to learn how to set it up, I guess. And then there's the replay function on Puyo Puyo Tetris' online mode that's like right there in front of you. That's also really amazing, because I think like the first time you load it up, it just shows you replays from the top 50 in the whole world. Like, you just poke at those and you'll see people doing crazy T-spins and stuff. And then like you can go onto the leaderboard, look at the top 20 and see that 19 out of no, now it's 18 out of 20 of them that are all Tetris players. It's like there's like so much evidence pointing towards Tetris actually being really strong of a game that they just ignore that and come to their own assumption that Tetris sucks and Puyo is overpowered and that the Tetris player is at a slight disadvantage. It's like, okay, ignore all the evidence.
It's kind of human nature is that like when people think they know something, they don't like try to go out and find things that just proves their notions.
That, like confirmation bias or whatever.
So they like go online, you know, like 2000 ranked. Maybe they get matched up against like, I don't know, like a 3000 level Puyo player because the matchmaking is a little wishy-washy. And they get completely destroyed. And they're like, oh my god, this is what Puyo is like all the time. This is what Tetris is like all the time.
Yeah, the other thing is, I think in general, like even if you remove the crossover aspect of this, people in general with a game like Tetris where everyone has played it, they reach some sort of like local maxima of like, I'm the best person I know in my like local community, like my family, my friends or whatever from like way back when. And then when they're presented with a Tetris game now, or even just like, even if you just the game that we're playing, like Game Boy Tetris or NES Tetris or something, and they just haven't like seen what people do with it in the community at large, just because all they know is what they know, and then suddenly presented with this, like they're either like deny it or are blown away. Like like one or either things happens. One is like they realize it and like, oh crap, I have to like learn these things, and the other is, well, that must not be right. So it is challenging kind of doing outreach to like what is known as like the most sold and like most well-known game, but is really only seen at like a surface level, because it's weird, and it's a weird abstract game. Like, how do you show somebody how like the pro techniques work, or like why different Tetris games are different? It's very difficult.
Yeah, like I'm really surprised with people's like reactions to when they see like all the new stuff you could do in Tetris now. Like, you know that like one tweet I made about like that 4Y combo? It's like, like it's just like absolutely ludicrous actually if you actually know what's going on. But I don't know, the reactions I got instead were like, oh wow, gotta learn this now, or what? This isn't how Tetris is supposed to be played. Like they have their own preconceived notions about like what Tetris is supposed to be, even though they haven't like really played Tetris for like what 10 years. And like, okay, like things change.
It's like a 30-year-old game.
I think like even though like people played like Tetris DS on the DS, right? And that was a guideline game.
Yeah, that had T-spins. Like, what are people so surprised about? So I don't know.
I think if you just look at it, like so many people have played Tetris that there's going to be some of the people that played Tetris DS and are like, okay, cool, I'll learn this stuff, and then so many more that actually just haven't and don't know it at all. And then like somewhere in between, the people that maybe have and like don't like that stuff and just choose not to use it or didn't notice it. Because I mean, it's possible for that to happen too. Like for me, that I did notice it. Like, what's this T-spin thing? Go look it up. Find Tetris concept. Oh man, what's going on? And then went from there. But it's definitely difficult when you have such a wide audience, and the game doesn't really do a good job of like forcing you to learn this stuff in most Tetris games. And so it's good that Puyo Puyo Tetris at least has a lesson mode, and in like the little like loading clip says, hey, have you looked at lesson mode yet? So it's a possibility that somebody can look at something in the game and actually learn these techniques at all.
Unfortunately, they're too busy raging over their loss and like tweeting how the Tetris player is at a slight disadvantage. So there's only so far the loading screen can go.
Some people, hopefully, some people are noticing this, but yeah, it's hard. It's difficult.
To add onto that further, I mean, if we just like think about the whole like human nature thing, where if you think about the casual player, like again, they haven't played Tetris since like the 90s, and then when they're introduced to all this stuff, it's like when a casual player is introduced to that kind of stuff, they're more so just want to flock to what's familiar to them, because that's what keeps them comfortable, that's what keeps them safe. That's generally what is all about the basic behavior of people. Like, they want to stick with what's familiar and what's safe, and when they're introduced to something new, you can see that maybe like 70 or 80% of them will like reject it because it's a means for them to not step away from their safety zone, their boundaries, their means of familiarity. So, I mean, it's not. I guess I'm not really surprised overall by the reaction for it. I'm just more so surprised, but shouldn't really be, by the amount of people that are surprised by it, because we've seen so many tweets, we've seen so many responses and reactions to just the high-level play that puzzle games has evolved to with Puyo Puyo Tetris being that nice crossover game. So it's just the amount of people that are affected by it is it's a jarring part, but at the same time it's also good in the end because it allows them to be more aware and more open and not just limited to how TGM is.
Well, I don't even think it's just like what TGM is. I think it's just a lot of people that used to play Game Boy or Atari or NES or something, and you know, reached whatever peak that they reached and aren't necessarily even aware of the game at large. Yeah, but I would say that the release of Puyo Puyo Tetris just opened up that audience to, like, now you're seeing it. I've seen this a ton, especially like a lot of people are not accepting of TGM or guideline verses or a lot of different concepts, or think, oh man, these guys aren't that good, I'm better, and without really understanding what they're looking at. And that's just normal, I think, unless you like are sitting there with it in your hands in front of you and can see like Tetris versus Tetris and like, oh, this is not working for me, like I actually can't cope with this, or like, oh, they're doing something different that I haven't seen before. It's really hard to get that outreach or understanding.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Like, yeah, I mean, for the past couple of minutes, we've kind of like been talking about like how like the end user reacts, but I feel like there's a slight flaw in the way like Tetris is presented by like developers too. It's like, so like I've been playing against streamers online, and I just do play Tetris against them, and so like I start spamming like one bag T-spin setups, and they're like, how is this even possible? How are you doing this so consistently? Like, they don't realize like how the randomizer works, because that's never conveyed in the games. That's not conveyed in Puyo Tetris either. So like, like there is like this like weird knowledge gap where like, if you don't actually go out of your way to Google it, you'll never match up in that sense or know how to set up the T-spins that way.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. It kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, the analogy that I'm getting in my head right now is like pinball. Like, there's a lot of game rules knowledge stuff that's hard to grasp, but it's at least there on the rules card or like on a screen. It says like, oh, if you do this, this will happen, or if you shoot this one, this light is on, this will happen. But Tetris is like, all right, here's some pieces, drop them in the box, without giving any sort of indication of what's going on at all. There's like no how to play that you have to go through. Like, there's no, just like, you're just there.
So like one streamer I was playing against, like after I kept doing the T-spins against him, he was like, okay, I give up. Clearly, like, there's some magic way you're doing these T-spins too consistently, and if I don't know that, then there's impossible for me to win, because, you know, T-spins do the same damage as Tetris's, but they come out faster with less pieces. So like, like mathematically, I can't win. So then they just like they gave up.
So close-minded.
So I'm like, yeah, that's kind of unfortunate, but that's just the way it kind of goes with modern Tetris now.
All right, so I think I'm gonna close out what we're talking about right now. But before I do, I just want to say that like I think one of the things that like intimidates people so much when they fight against Puyo as Tetris is that, you know, when you get like a huge chain in Puyo, you get this like whooshing noise every time a big chain goes, and you're like, oh my god, this is crazy, and you get all this damage. I actually like that like visual and like audio feedback. I know like Tucker, like when you posted the Nexus review, I mean, you kind of made a meme of that like T-spin noise.
Ah, yes.
That like T-spin noise is it's so satisfying.
Yeah, that's I've heard this come up once before. They call it game feel. So Puyo Puyo Tetris has like really good game feel when it comes to its sound effects, and Puyo in general has always had good game feel. Like spells, for example, when people love their favorite characters screaming out whatever their unique phrases are, because it just feels good to hear that and get that feedback from that. I don't know how to phrase that exactly.
It's just good sound design in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just good, really good design.
Yeah,
I mean, I
It's
don't think other
confused.
Tetris games like. How many other Tetris games actually give you a completely different sound effect when you do a T-spin like rotation properly?
Yeah, they tend to. I think at least. Let's see. Like I think the games that are coming to mind right now are the like Tetris Online Japan had voice callouts for all of the different things, and also the little T-spin noises.
I think I've watched S2 play that once.
No, but does it actually like during the rotation, not even before the piece locks in? That's when it gives you a different mechanical clicking noise in Puyo Puyo Tetris. I know, like I saw videos of like Tetris Ultimate. It doesn't do that.
Of course not.
So let's see. Like, what do you mean? Like when it's on the ground and rotating, it makes a different
Yeah,
sound.
like when it's on the ground and then you do a proper T-spin rotation with the correct number of corners, it actually produces a different sound effect.
Yeah, it's like really.
So like you know
really,
that you did a
like,
right
chunky,
T-spin rotation
yeah.
before you even lock
Before
in.
you
chunky,
do
like
it.
click click click
Yeah.
click noise.
Okay, that's nice. Actually, I will go test that later. So it doesn't work if it doesn't have the 3-corner rule. Like it will make a different
yeah,
sound.
if it doesn't
on the
like
ground.
produce a T-spin mini or T-spin like a real T-spin afterwards, you clear it, that it doesn't produce the mechanical clicking. So you know beforehand, before you lock in your piece, whether you did the T-spin rotation correctly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is actually really good. That's +1 for Puyo Tetris. I thought you were just talking about like the little different chimes and melodies and voice callouts for the different line clear sizes or types. But yeah, pre line clear sounds I think might be kind of a first
like
in
a
terms
step
of
up.
spins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching a streamer practice like a couple of like T-spin opener setups earlier today, and he was like, it just feels really good to do this. It's awesome.
Yeah, and to add on to that further, it's like it really like not only does it help like in the immersion sense, but it also helps like in the competitive sense, because we all know like well, for those of us who are deep into Puyo, we all know that like the voice chains, while they are very nice in terms of getting their personalities out for whichever character we use, it also does allow us as the competitor to realize how far their chains are in, and that's in itself good sound design. So to have that in addition for Tetris with the T-spins and whatnot, as well as the voices, it just sort of like adds to it so much more in terms of the competitive sense and in the aesthetic sense. So it's it appeals to both audiences.
Yeah.
Or like when you do like the combo rush, and then like you get high enough where it makes that like kind of like that buzzing noise, and it flashes up a warning sign. You're like, oh crap, I'm gonna die.
When you see that exclamation point whenever you're fighting Wumbo, that's when it's over.
Doesn't it say? It says danger, right?
Oh, no, it's just like an exclamation point, and then like it goes like ding ding ding.
I know,
each time,
but
like
yeah.
I still have Winds of War from those matches.
Is that the sound it makes when like the garbage will like take up the entire playfield or something?
Yes.
Or... Oh
Yes.
man, that's pretty rough.
It's a very frightening noise, but that's when you got to speed up or just fill your board up and take the loss.
Or put the controller down, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Walk away.
It's also when you know that margin time has started coming into effect. So you're like, oh crap, gotta hurry up, otherwise I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much great about this game. There's so much, like, the story is great. Like, it really, certainly brought life to the characters. Like, the English dub, the cast did a very great job. I remember when we had the voices up for it, when Puyo Nexus had the videos up for it for showing off all the English voices, I was like, huh, why is Amethyst all, like, British? And then when I played the story, I'm like...
It all makes sense
Smart,
now.
actually.
Yeah.
So a little bit different from like the Japanese dub. So what the English dub did was that the alternate voice packs for some of the characters are actually references to like their jokes from the story mode.
Yes.
So like there was a scene where Amity like has like fakes a British accent or whatever. So then that's what became her alt voice. Rafina's alt voice is like her like possessed voice or whatever, right?
Something
So-
like that, yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess it
Yeah.
would be.
So I appreciate that like little attention to detail that they did, just like for the continuity between story and all the other aesthetics.
Oh, rest in peace, aesthetic magic.
Oh yeah, they changed up a lot of spells in the English version, but I was like, oh, it's still good. Whatever, it's better than nothing.
Yeah,
Actually, maybe
I mean-
that's not a good mentality to have. But it's been 13 years. I don't
Hey,
really
wait.
care.
Yeah, you want to talk about adventure mode some more?
Oh yeah, so okay, when I got my review copy and I started playing through adventure mode, like I was like, I don't know, I just really wanted to talk to people about it because it was just so good. Like
It was so
like
good.
like just like all the jokes are on point. Like I didn't think I would laugh at a children's game, but I did.
Yeah.
It's just so like it's very self-aware how ridiculous the Puyo Puyo universe is. So it's just like it didn't care. They just made up stuff and like roll with it. I'm like, I'm okay with that too. Cause like I don't take this seriously. I'm not looking for like, I don't know.
And that's where it works.
Deepest lore.
Compelling story, life changing, near automata level, make you go to tears. Like that's not Puyo Puyo. It's like whatever. Don't care so much. This isn't a Hollywood movie.
See, and to sort of add on to that whole like they're self-aware, it's kind of like I was playing through the story mode of Bomberman Switch, and the story mode is like they knew they were talking down to whoever they were directing it to, and it's just like it kind of was a disservice not only to the voice cast who had to follow that direction, but also the overall like writing and the plot. It's like, I mean, yeah, you're looking for a plot in the video game like Bomberman. It's like, what are you gonna look for, right? But when you like compare it to like something like Puyo Puyo Tetris, it's like, yeah, it has that same direction. It's like, what are you gonna look for story in a puzzle game, right? But they handled it very well. I was very pleased with how they maintained the characteristics of each character and whatnot, their personalities and whatnot. It definitely like shined through from how they were presented in the previous games that weren't dubbed, and a part of me kind of like wants them to like redub like the old games and whatnot that were in Japanese that we didn't get, like Puyo Puyo Sun or Puyo Puyo 7 and whatnot, just to like see how they would handle it, because the voice cast did a fantastic job of bringing these characters to life, and the direction and the localization team also did a great job, as S2 pointed. It's like they're self-aware, and that's where it really hits home. Like, they know what kind of story they're doing, and they presented it in that sense with that direction in mind.
Hey, and you know, like, don't most fighting games nowadays also have equally pointless stories? Like, it's just there for to have an excuse for the characters to fight, like always, like also in Puyo. So I'm like not quite sure what like people like really so miffed about. Like, I don't know. Maybe they're just like searching for reasons to like criticize the game. So like,
I know some people get like super deep into the lore. I mean, like, you know, like in Japan at least, you know, they have like light novels and they have like drama CDs and like stage plays for all this stuff. And like some people really like that. And like, but like that being said, like I think the localization like still manages to respect the source material while keeping it really lighthearted.
yeah. So I did see like quite a few people on the internet saying like, why does Ringo talk like we've played past Puyo games before and we know about the adventures they've been on?
That's
so,
her
like,
character. That's her character. Like,
yeah.
come on. Oh my
Exactly.
goodness. Like,
Yeah.
they're knocking the dub for a direction that, you know, like the voice cast obviously didn't have much control over. It's like, come on. The Japanese had that exact same direction too, and if that's what you're getting from it, then that's exactly the point. Exactly the point.
Yep.
I feel like it would just be a mess to start from scratch too. Like, can you just imagine every time a new character is introduced, they're just like, oh, hello, who are you? Instead of just being like, oh, that's my friend, we play Puyo together. P.S. Let's fight.
Yeah.
basically.
Plus, like, yeah, I guess it also kind of helps us out because, I mean, we got our wiki, we got all these translated stories, so we'll be like, oh, I didn't know there's such deep lore, let's go look at it. You know, free advertising for us, yeah.
I'm pretty sure maybe the localization team looked at our wiki anyways, because I know that like beginning of last year actually, like I heard, so I think Sam Mullins on like the localization producer for Sega America, I think he did mention that like ever since Puyo Fever 1, since then like the American office hasn't had much people with experience with Puyo, so like even like until they started working on this localization, I guess like even they didn't have much knowledge about Puyo. So it makes me really proud that like Puyo Nexus has been a good resource for people, like even like, you know, people are begging to. So like,
yeah, I mean, like
learn more.
I know people have been putting a lot of work into like keeping the wiki like informative and up to date. So, you know, hats off to them for holding the fort down.
I mean, although it is kind of hard sometimes because like, you know, all the games are still in Japanese, so we're kind of searching for Japanese translators. Wink, wink. Please help.
Were there any Tetris games that had interesting puzzles or campaigns back in the day, Kataru, out of curiosity?
Campaigns?
Cardcaptor Sakura?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Cardcaptor Sakura would be the one that comes to mind. Also an
my
Arika
goodness.
game. So it runs on a like TGM-ish engine. So if you look at like soccer mode in TGM3, it's basically that, but like I think 20 or 25 stages, little anime cutscenes in between. What are other interesting campaigns? I mean,
wasn't there like a Game Boy Advance Tetris game where like you're like a robot and you had to save some worlds? There was like that kind of like slight story.
Oh yeah, I mean I guess there's Tetris Worlds. That was a multi-platform thing. I'm actually not very familiar with the story on that, other than I know that Hank Rogers wanted some like sci-fi story. So there's different worlds you have to save or something. You have to get like you have to beat each mode like 10 times or something. That like after different ranks.
That sounds oddly familiar.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Thinking emoji.
Let's see what else. I mean, there's like Tetris Battle Gaiden is kind of interesting. It's a Super Famicom game. It has different characters, and the mechanic there is like some of the blocks have gems in them. When you clear the gems, you like store up meter, and you can use them to like activate items. So it has sort of like a little goofy anime style story for that too. I'm trying to think of those other story-based games. I guess Tetris Plus, you have a little archaeologist guy going and getting treasure. So there's different games with different stories and different themes, which is something that we've kind of been, I guess, lacking lately. So it's kind of interesting having like the crossover with Puyo Puyo Tetris, create some characters for all the Tetris pieces and things.
So what thing, the whole introduction of characters thing got me thinking about, like, so like, the next Tetris games that happens, like, what will the Tetris company do? Because like, I think people really do appreciate and like how Sega introduced all these characters to represent the Tetraminos and stuff. It's just like fun, and having people shout their attacks. So what are they going to do next? Like, release the Tetris game without all these aesthetics? Doesn't that seem kind of less fun? So
It seemed like Ultimate.
I remember an interview not actually, it was like 2014 after Puyo Puyo Tetris got out, and they were like, if Puyo Puyo Tetris does well, maybe we'll make a Tetris spin-off using those characters. And then they have like 2 separate IPs they're building off of, but seeing how the guidelines for Tetris is, I don't know if they even be wanting or willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. There's a lot of things
It just sucks, okay? Because like in the case with Tetris Ultimate, if you guys get a dud game, it's like 2 years before you get another one that's maybe not a dud, but you never know. That's just really crappy.
I mean, the whole thing with Ubisoft getting the license in the first place was the Tetris company wasn't happy with their dealings with EA. How long was it before it was released?
Yeah.
I think there's a 3-year gap between the EA version of Tetris and the Tetris Ultimate version of Tetris.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It was a long time. I feel for the team on that, because it just seemed like it was really hard to do what was being asked of them. Like, it got subcontracted out to a local dev, and they were making it in Unity to ease the multi-platform side of it. And then a different Ubisoft team was doing the 3DS, like the Japan team. Like, if you look at the credits, like the 3DS version's made by a different team that's internal in Ubisoft, and then Soma Play was doing all the multi-platform, and like in association with Ubisoft and everything. Like, if you look at all the credits on it, but it just seems like it was really hard to do what was being asked, like to put out all these versions on all these platforms, and while like also like, trying to conform to all like the Sony release specs and Microsoft release specs and all that, and conform to the Tetris guideline side of things. Like, I think they wanted to do a lot more with that game, but it was just way too much for the project management that they were trying to accomplish. Like, it was way out of scope, it feels like, because there's a lot of things like in the options are like, oh, like classic rotation and classic this and classic that, or like different randomizers and things, but they're not like all quite like cohesive in terms of design. So I think they were trying to do more. Like, I know they were trying to do more, because like they did try to talk to some people, like ask like for feedback and whatnot, but it just seems like they weren't able to get the game they wanted out.
So that actually makes me think of one thing that I've heard some Tetris players like express a little iffiness about. So I know that when Tetris Ultimate was being developed, like they actually had the Tetris community come out and like say like the features they wanted, like adjustable auto repeat rate, stuff like that, or adjustable DAS settings.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm talking about for the viewers will be hearing this. It's just like settings for moving your Tetrimino really fast.
Yeah.
And so I guess did Tetris Ultimate implement those? Like actually, I don't know. I didn't really.
Yes, that is
so...
one thing that we actually got out of that game is adjustable auto repeat. It's really hard because we got it for Tetris Friends, which was by Tetris Online America, which is kind of like a child/side company of the Tetris company. And then we had a bunch of games where we didn't have adjustable auto repeat again. Like it was hard enough getting it. Like, you know, bombarding Tetris Online America to put it in Tetris Friends, and to some extent, I guess Tetris Battle, although it's those settings were kind of nerfed. I don't know. There was games that had it, and then there was games that didn't have it, and then now there's games that have it again, and now games that don't have it again. Like, anything with Tetris rules goes back and forth, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason with it, so I'm not really sure.
It's probably because they keep like giving the contract to different developers each time.
But they also like enforce different things on the developers. Like they like make an exception once, and then they're like, actually, we don't want that because this and that. Like they put up a big fight, and then they're like, okay, fine, you can put this in the game. But then the next game, they're like, no, this is gonna be confusing for this audience or that audience, or this is outside the guidelines, you can't have it. Which is why we don't have initial rotation or initial hold or other nice like quality of life things in the game again. So I don't really know.
Yeah, so Puyo Puyo Tetris does not have adjustable DAS or auto repeat rate settings, and it doesn't have like initial hold system or initial rotating.
Yeah, I'm okay with it not having adjustable because it has pretty good speeds. But it's kind of annoying that the quality of life, like initial systems and things, are gone again.
Yeah, but I mean, like overall, it kind of seems like the Tetris guideline like community is pretty happy with the game. It's probably one of the best guideline games out there, especially like at least like for like the modern consoles.
Yeah, I personally like
even
Tetris and Puyo Puyo Tetris because like as long as you're finding someone that's like close by, like not like 10 countries away, like the net play is actually really solid, and you can actually like I've played Tetris Friends and Tetris Online Japan before, and like sometimes people are just playing so fast you can't even see what like how their screen is updating. So like even if you wanted to in theory react to whatever they're doing, like you can't really see. But the net play in Puyo Puyo Tetris is actually good enough for you to see what your opponent is doing without. Usually you don't get input lag. Usually.
Yeah, like I think like the most unfortunate part about the netcode is that if it lags, it
drops inputs. Yeah, that was a big bummer, I would say.
It's only a real problem in like swap and fusion, but otherwise, like 4-player matches isn't really that bad. In like
sucks.
Standard versus.
In standard versus, it already sucks.
It depends on who you're playing with, mostly.
Oh, then you guys have played with worse connections.
Well, whenever I have to play somebody in Japan, or even if I just played Blink at one time, I think I had a little bit of it, but especially playing people in Japan, I get misdrops because I'm trying to play, I guess, too fast, and like I don't visually confirm some of my movements, and it's like, oh, that didn't go through. So now I have to clean up this like huge like skimmed platform across the playfield. So I have to actually play slower in order to like work around the fact that it might sometimes just like drop inputs.
Which for Tetris is a big deal, yeah.
I mean, I feel like people are impacted a lot less if you have really good finesse, though. So, I mean, there's that.
Finesse
like, you
is good.
What?
My finesse is good.
Okay.
Gosh.
That's okay too. No, I'm not saying anything against you. It's just like
I know
some people
around.
I've seen like some streamers online, like I don't know, they complain about the dropped inputs, but I've also seen that I don't know, they don't really play properly. So
there is a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference.
Well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, if somebody's trying to, like, hammer out rapid taps or something, that's not a good idea, but at the same time, the game shouldn't penalize you for using suboptimal input, I guess. Like, you should be able to do what you're able to do. Like, if you play with fewer inputs, yes, you will be less affected by it sometimes hiccuping, but either way, it's not ideal.
Yeah, I know, like, a lot of, like, especially because of the way that like the Joy-Cons work, a lot of people have been hoping for like some way to like remap hard drop to a different button.
Puyo Puyo Tetris
especially
has,
like when you're playing with the detached Joy-Cons and you're using the analog stick. People have been like, I mean, it's something that you can learn, but I'd rather they just fix it.
Yeah.
You know? Puyo Tetris has an unfortunate lack of customization options for mapping your buttons, which I don't really understand why, but It doesn't.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like it's still more than like the original like PS3, 3DS
Yeah.
release.
Yeah, I would say like I'm glad that there are remapping options because so many times we just had nothing, and now we have some pretty good ones. It's not as good as like, man, Tetris Splash was great. I could make my keyboard style like now like table is basically that, but like I could change my inputs however I wanted. So now that we have at least presets that are pretty good is nice. And then on the PS4 side, you also kind of have like the accessibility remap, which, you know, you shouldn't be a thing that developers are relying on, but you could move things around a little bit more if you needed to. Yeah, so there is that.
I see a lot of Tetris players actually play using that table layout. It's kind of a little bit unorthodox.
Man, we were already doing it back on the Xbox 360 for Tetris Splash. Like, they basically have... Table 2 is Blink's... Blink's,
Is it because
config.
of the worst joystick or the worst D-pad ever on that 360 controller?
Oh, well, yeah, they basically. Like, people are like, okay, we're not using this D-pad. Like,
That's so funny.
Caffeine had some config where, like, everything was on the shoulder buttons. For a while before I started playing, like, a table layout, I was holding the controller upside down and using, like, ABXY and then, like, moving moving the joystick left and right to rotate and clicking the joystick in to hold.
That's
that was
ridiculous.
That was a pretty sweet setup. But then when I found table, it was like, oh man, this is great. I had like a little like Chun-Li fight pad that I was using table kind of style with. It was pretty nice.
Yeah, I should probably do that. I still have like my Marvel stick sitting around.
Yeah. So I like table. Table is good on that. And then they have like a one-handed setup. Like I would say that the configs that they gave cover a lot of bases. I just like wish there was something like I could put hard drop on like a trigger instead of soft drop. Like the one expert config has soft drop on R1. It's like, man, could you have just given me like L2, R2, like, you know, drops, and then it'd be great.
You have to reach further away to just like press that button on the table, right? 'Cause of the configuration.
Well, yeah, it's like, so one of the configs I've used on gamepad before is left and right are still left and right. I have up and down as drops if I need them, but since one of the aspects of like guideline Tetris DAS finesse is holding left and then pressing up a lot to keep DAS preserved across multiple pieces, it's nicer on table layout or keyboard layout. But if you have to play it on gamepad, I do like having, like, for example, like L1 is hard drop or something. I've played TGM that way before with like a kind of like L2 and L1 are the sonic drop and soft drop, so I can just like flick the triggers to do things. So it's like, it'd be great if I could put that on this and try it out and see how it is. I can with PS4 accessibility remap, but I think I'm just going to stick with table because it's a little weird reaching down to X for the soft drop, especially when Puyo where you don't have quick drop anymore. So that kind of is a bummer until I like maybe get like a hitbox kind of controller or make one or something. But yeah, like it is still really good. If I could at least get like, I think if I was gonna play table still, if I could just put like soft drop on like L2, it'd probably be perfect.
Well, while we're on the subject of things that we'd like to see in the game, for me, probably the biggest one is some kind of spectator mode for online.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
definitely.
I mean, I don't know, cause like I would love it, but the problem is that like Puyo Puyo Tetris is already like how old of a game right now, and do you think like Sega of Japan would really care about that? Because we all know that like it came out first in Japan and their main developers are obviously Japanese, so when they're like looking at a game like 3 years later it's finally getting the success that it is in the West, would that influence or entice the Japanese company to make patches for it? It's kind of like a bit of a Puyo Puyo Chronicle is already out on the 3DS. You think like I kind of am optimistic and hope that they would like do some more patches to it, like spectator mode, because of the success here in the West. But it's just like like the things that we would talk about here are all pretty much just pipe dreams, you know. Unless they do a Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, then that'd be cool.
I would say,
I mean, yeah, sequel would be cool.
yeah, I would say a lot of the things we probably think would be really cool. Yeah, more of sequel material. It's probably really hard with the code base they have to just like pump out like spectator mode or something that probably they never planned for.
I mean,
Like-
not only that, but my guess is that, I don't know, I guess Sega perceives that there's not really a huge demand for it. Because one thing I noticed among like lots of Japanese like Puyo and Tetris players is like, I don't know what it is about puzzle games, but people like to stay pretty private about showing other people their gameplay. So, I mean, they don't really want people spectating them unless they're like actually a legit streamer.
Yeah, but I mean, like, fighting games have had spectator mode.
Yeah,
with
so I don't
privacy
know.
options since forever. This is a solved problem.
Yeah.
Like, there's very little excuse that
I mean-
Sega keeps putting this off in Puyo games.
Yeah, it's the same with, like, for example, if you looked at, like, Tetris Online Japan, or I think Tetris France also, you can have a private room, and somebody has to have a password or something to go into it. And if that is what people need to not have to worry about either random people joining the game or random people spectating, then, yeah, it doesn't seem like a huge issue, I guess.
And you have locked rooms now too. Like if they're able to put that in, then why not have more to it, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Aside from that, I think the one pet feature that this is going to be in Puyo Puyo Tetris, maybe in some future Puyo game or some future Tetris game. My pet want is some kind of like King of the Hill mode for online, where instead of just like having forced, fixed number of players in this room, either 4-player or nothing, so you can just have one-on-ones, but each time the winner wins one, it boots the player and they take the next player in line and have a go.
That's gonna be so crushing
yeah.
for people who are kicked off though, especially considering the amount of salt they're producing already with just generic versus online.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how this worked. I think that's how Tetris Online Japan worked when it was still open. Like, when you were in a 1 versus 1 room and there was other people in the room, when somebody lost, somebody else got up, I think. And it wasn't until like you have a sort of like the gray, like unofficial server like Tetris Online Poland and things that you had a room where you could have 1 versus 1 and everyone else is spectating and not in line. But like I think the original Tetris Online Japan worked that way. It was like if there was a 1 versus 1 room and it was public and people were in it, when somebody lost, somebody else got put in line. That's what I recall.
Yeah. Anybody else have pet feature requests?
I mean, I guess one thing that I would like, I don't mind Puyo Puyo Tetris on its own. It's still a very solid package, but if I were to choose one, I guess I would love for them to have had a proper fever mode.
Richard, you stole mine.
hey, look! Don't blame me. The first thing that like my sister said when I got Puyo Puyo Tetris, oh, does it have fever? And offsetting no, and then like she just like didn't want to play it. So yeah, a fever mode, like a proper fever mode, would be fantastic. Would have been great. I mean, granted, we do have like our pool of players and whatnot, but a lot of people in the West were introduced. Well, the last Western Puyo Puyo game we had was Puyo Pop Fever, so it would have been nice to have had it. But granted, they did design that game without localization in mind, so I mean I could forgive them for it, but maybe for a sequel I would love to see that.
I mean, in terms of Puyo Puyo Tetris, I mean, what would Tetris get instead of fever mode,
They get Lucky Attack.
Yeah.
They have Lucky Attack. It's already there, coded into
Got
the
you
game.
there.
Is that like really what you would want from a fever lookalike? From
I'm
Tetris?
sure it wouldn't work as good as
knows?
it sounds.
Like-
All right.
They could
They could probably
They
have
could-
better patterns for it. Like, harder to parse patterns, I don't know.
This is probably just gonna sound like Daihenshin, but I've always wanted all right, so both players play Puyo, and then their fever mode is just Lucky Attack. So they when you get fever, you're just playing Tetris, and then when you get out of fever, you're
But-
playing Puyo. That's what I've always wanted, but I don't know if that would actually work as well as it sounds.
the only concern is that like it forces people to just play Puyo as opposed to just playing Tetris normally,
They could do like an inverse too. I don't know.
Where they play Tetris and go into fear mode.
And play Puyo. Yeah.
Oh, they could. Okay, I see what you're saying. Like they would have the versus mode where they would choose what their preference is for both modes. So they choose Puyo or Tetris for their regular, and then Lucky Attack or Fever for their second mode.
I mean, that's kind of
With
how
the-
like Daihenshin worked in 7, which wasn't
Right.
very good. But I don't know. I wonder if they could make it work. That's what I would
mean,
want.
it can't be as bad as Party, right?
They could just turn on Cascade garbage for whatever the Lucky Attack equivalent is. Just like suddenly it's actually like stacking combos. You just like figure out where to clear. Actually, I don't know if that would work as well for a Lucky Attack, but they could give us actual like chaining mechanics. Like if if you look at which games had Cascade, I guess Tetris Worlds has a mode with it, or like the new Tetris, or I guess no, not the new Tetris, the next Tetris.
Anything you want S2?
Different leaderboards for Puyo and Tetris.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I just feel like it's a disservice to like all the Puyo players that it's basically impossible for them to get into the top 20. So you can't really see who the best Puyo players in the world are. And
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it's kind of a knock-on effect with like the Switch version. A lot of the Puyo players just
they didn't
didn't
get the game. They all,
yeah.
I don't know, it's just unfortunate timing on Sega's part that they released Puyo Puyo Chronicle like, I don't know, 3 months before Puyo Puyo Tetris Switch. So a lot of Japanese Puyo players, they just didn't care about the Switch version. They just kept on playing Chronicle. So they still do like lots of like ranking leagues on Chronicle. And it's
It was very
only
odd timing.
it's only like very few, like just the insane Puyo collectors who are also super good at the game that bought the Switch version. So
Yeah,
personally,
but I mean,
for me,
like,
it's been like really tough climbing up in the ranks because the only other Puyo players are the insane Japanese people who are actually good enough to like mildly stand a chance against Tetris, but are also like just overwhelming in power with Puyo. Like Sadakame, dude, I fought him a bunch. TS, he's also ridiculous. He's actually one of the only Puyo players in the top 20 because I don't know, either he has a really good persistence with like his grinding in terms of ranked, or he's just that amazing with digging. Probably both.
Yeah, I mean, like, that being said, like, the Switch version of Puyo Puyo Tetris is actually the second best-selling version of PPT in Japan, which is kind of ridiculous, because this is the third time they've released the game, basically. And, like, it's beaten out everything except for, like, the 3DS version, which I'm assuming it's never going to catch up, but it's still, like, a really good showing.
Maybe people were just really thirsty when their Switch got in their house.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm bored of playing Zelda. I want to play Tetris or something else now.
It was a release game for Japan.
Yeah, like Bomberman R, didn't that sell really well just because it was a launch window game?
It certainly did. And Konami did a very great job with that game, but this is totally not the Bomberman podcast, so I'm just going to keep that on a different time.
I'm just saying. The same could happen to Tetris or Puyo Puyo Tetris as well going forward.
Can I make a Tetris feature request?
Yeah.
Remove combo singles. Remove combo singles.
Yo,
That's my request.
it's so funny how like when you have two forward wides going against each other, the optimal strategy is to stall. Like,
Yeah.
just wiggle your piece a lot. I guess there is skill in like knowing the different ways you could extend the four wide combo. Like you know how you have to like make sure your garbage holes don't dead end. Like I guess there is skill in like knowing if you can like swap out your piece to stall more, or if you do have to go with this piece.
Yeah, there's skill, but I'm just like, I just have to say, like, we've been complaining about far wide for years now, and like it just kind of stays, so we have to just kind of deal with it. And people are like, okay, well, if you have to learn it, then you have to learn it, and it's like it's skillful.
Wait, which Tetris game had combos introduced? Actually, like I'm just wondering. Did Tetris DS even have
Access
that?
games, right? Hudson?
No,
The Hudson
earlier
game?
than that. Hang on, let me think for a second. I might have to go research this. I don't think it's in Tetris Worlds, because I think Tetris Worlds, I don't even remember, I think Teasmans might send something that it might actually just still be straight. Combos, not Tetris DS, could be Tetris Online Japan. I'm just trying to think the timeline out in my head. There have been a number of games that had them. It's been in since before the Hudson games. Like, Tetris Online Japan definitely has it. And that's one of the first games I feel like people like really got introduced with it, because you have it in Tetris Online Japan, you have it in the Hudson games, you have it in the Korean like hand game, you have it in Tetris Friends and Battle and whatnot.
Yeah, that's the first place I've had introduced to it.
Yeah, there might be a console game before that. I'm think Tetris Splash I think has it, and yeah, like it's been through different variations. Like, whether we have combo block or we don't, or whether we have, you know, like, what the garbage table is, whether it goes to +5 or it caps at +4.
I mean, I think, well, regardless, like, I just feel like the combo system as it is now, it's just like, I don't know, it just continues this line of, like, new features in Tetris where, like, it's like the inverse power scaling. So, attacks that use less pieces total end up doing more damage. Like, okay, so T-spins do more damage than Tetris does with less lines. Well, the same damage as Tetris, but with less lines.
Yeah.
And then like 4-wides, they also only require like what, three bags of pieces, so like 20 something total.
Yeah, it gets super powerful. Like, I guess
it's like 5 times more as powerful than what you could do with the same amount of pieces if you were like T-spinning, right? So it's pretty crazy. And
yeah.
with that much power, like the only thing you can really do against it is the same thing.
Also combo. Yeah, like people
Yeah.
did some tests. There's like a old video that like Chopin made. Like Chopin and Caffeine went into a room and were placing piece for piece against each other, like zero gravity, just like, you know, one person would do T-spins as optimally as possible, basically playing turn-based, and one person would do combo, and the combo player always came out with an advantage in terms of, like, material, like, they like had sent the other person up to the top, or, like, you know, something, even if they're playing, like, equal speed, basically. And it's been like that for a while, and I can see ways where we could try something different and still have that, like, satisfaction of combos existing, but without them being, like, ridiculously more powerful per piece than, like, T-spins. Like, T-spins I understand being, like, a little bit more efficient because you have to do some sort of setup for them, and you have to deal with soft drop if it's a game that has soft drop, right? Like, we haven't gone to, like, Sonic drop in official games, so... but if you, like, took combo and, like, instead of making every single increase the combo counter and, like, did something more, like, TGM combo scoring where double or higher raises the counter, but singles just maintain it, or maybe only raised it very slightly, like, they weren't worth as much, then maybe you would start to see a little bit more interest in having this existing, where, like, versus now, where the only thing that adequately counters combo is also combo, like...
Yeah, I mean, right now you just kind of have like a gentleman's agreement not to do 4-wide in Tetris, right?
Yeah,
that's
it's like...
pretty much how it is in Puyo Puyo Tetris Ranked.
Uh-huh.
Like, all the Japanese players they see, I guess they do have an unspoken agreement not to do 4-wides. So then Wumbo comes in and does 4-wides against all of them, and so then they all lose. Like, the first
like, I remember seeing that clip that you made, like, S2 of one of his streams. I was like, if I were to describe 4-wides in a, like, applied sense, it's like, you know, you're painting something, and you're painting something with, like, your friend, but then you have to watch it dry for a bit before you get to the next layer each time. It's like, it's just, what is happening with that match? I was so confused and just, like, utterly astonished by what I was seeing on screen there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Like, it's all like Blink playing ranked the other day, and then he ran into Wumbo and is like, well, 4-wide, I don't actually know how to do this myself yet, so I guess I basically just lose.
Yeah.
It really sucks how it is right now, honestly.
I guess, like, the other thing you can try to do is, like, go for perfect clears, which are also ridiculously powerful and pretty consistent. Like, a little bit more random, but... Like,
So it's a 74% chance for, like, the popular opener for that to work, right? But I mean, there's tons of other different ways to do it now too. Like Shui, is that how you say his name? Well, he came out with, like, you know, that perfect
Shui.
300 back-to-back perfect clear video, and I'm like, well, if Tetris players work hard enough to make this actually possible in, like, real life matches, then
yeah.
I mean, I guess the way garbage works, you can't really actually do back-to-back perfect clears because someone will eventually, like, do, like, send a line.
They might,
like,
yeah. But I've done 2 in a row sometimes. But
Yeah.
it's hard. I don't do it very often. I've done it like literally like a couple times. But sometimes I get the setup and like, oh, oops, I got some garbage. So
Yeah, but just the
It
fact that
also
it's possible
sucks.
though, it just seems too OP. And then you have it against Puyo. So it's like double. No, I got triple perfect clear once, and like I didn't
saw
even get to
that.
play.
Oh,
I was like,
no.
well, I guess I'll just put my controller down. Like,
yeah.
perfect
Like,
clears are
just so
kind of
awesome.
too determinate in Tetris. So
Check out the like King of Stackers players. Like there's a mode in King of Stackers. Like King of Stackers is a turn-based fan game where like you play just like 7 pieces of Tetris like against each other, like kind of like play by email style. But there's a mode called Perfect Clear Challenge, and people can do like, you know, 10 perfect clears in a row with bag, or like, you know, like I don't know how people have done like now that there's like the 100-piece mode introduced, not 100-piece, like the, I guess, 1,000-piece mode introduced. I don't know how far people can do with bag. I haven't looked at the leaderboards lately, but yeah, people have learned enough like setups or like ways to deal with certain situations to do a lot of perfect clears in a row. So it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it also kind of sucks for like Tetris how they get different RNG seeds.
Like, yes.
yeah, that's
One player will get a perfect clear, and the other's just like, well, that's cool.
Time for
Bye.
more.
Oops, I got
Oh,
the
okay.
25% whiff where I don't get it.
yeah. But also, like, some players, like, maybe both players get the perfect clear, but like one perfect clear combos into itself, or while the other one doesn't, or one clears multiple lines at once. Or you might get like the JIT like perfect clear where it actually turns into a Tetris, so that also sends more damage. Like, that's all kind of based on luck, whether you get that.
Yeah, can I ask real quick, since I haven't really been able to go in the lab completely with the Puyo Tetris version of the garbage rules, so does a Tetris perfect clear actually stack? Like, it adds the Tetris lines and the perfect clear lines, so it's like plus, like, how much does that actually send?
I guess, I can't remember off the top of my head, mainly because, like, I don't sit there and count it, but I think it does do, like, how much does the raw perfect clears do? I never did it without actually comboing into it. I think
I'll
it's
have
like
to
8 or 9
test it.
lines, but it does add up. Like, I've seen it do like over half the screen, so it's
Okay,
there.
so maybe, yeah, because it's been a couple different iterations. Like, in some versions it sends 8, and in some versions it sends 10, and I think the Tetris Online Japan rule might be the same as the TGM rule, where it's like it doubles the number of lines or something. So I don't actually know, so I'll have to go sit with that later. But usually when, I think, which game? Either Tetris Ultimate or maybe the PS3 one also. I think it was set so it would cap at just the perfect clear value. But if they've set it now where it'll like actually add the lines together, then that's kind of harsh. I'm not sure how it works. It keeps changing.
Speaking of perfect clears and balancing Tetris though, like, I feel like this just leads to another difficulty. Like, so one of the reasons why like the 4 wide stalling like really shenanigans happen is because there's no garbage blocking in Puyo Puyo Tetris. So garbage blocking is like, in some Tetris games, as long as you keep clearing lines, the garbage doesn't hit you until like you either clear it all or whatever. But in Puyo
Or
Tetris,
you-
like, you
yeah.
can get hit by garbage like in between, like inside your combo stops. So the thing is, like, I feel like garbage blocking, while it would like kind of fix the 4 wide issues, it would also like make perfect clear super powerful, because usually you combo into them and it only takes one back to set up like the base for it, the same amount of pieces you would need for like a teaspoon opener. So like that also makes it kind of like the trade-off for like nerfing 4 wides is that perfect clears also get really OP. So I was like, I don't know what you can, I don't know. There's a lot you have to consider to balance
problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, when I play swap mode, which does have garbage blocking enabled, like, some of the Japanese players, they're just so good at doing the perfect clear really fast. And, like, I can't stop it because there's garbage blocking. So either I just have to do the perfect clear myself too, which has a, what, like a 20% chance of not working with the popular opener. So yeah, rip. It's really hard.
Yeah, so at this point, I think we're going to start to try wrapping up. I'd like to hear what you think, you know, like what the legacy of Puyo Puyo Tetris is going to end up being in terms of like, you know, more crossover games. Like, how is Puyo like and or Tetris going to go forward from here? Things like that.
I did a poll on this for Twitter, but I only got 50 votes. But the options were localize Puyo Puyo Chronicle, make a Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. Do a different crossover with, say, Panel de Pan or something else completely. And the winning result was Puyo Chronicle for Switch. But I think going forward, I don't know how... I think... Didn't Puyo Puyo Tetris sell better than 20th Anniversary overall? Do you guys know?
Remember. I should know this because I watched Sales Like a Hawk, but I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it did, though.
Yeah,
I'm,
I like the 3DS one definitely outsold 20th.
But my point is like, if crossovers is what is making money for Sega, then I feel like they're gonna want to do more of them. So
Yeah.
I don't know if there's enough things they could justify a sequel in, or if they're just gonna try and do something completely different.
Yeah, like
Yeah, there is an issue, like, what can you change with the current Puyo Tetris? Well, okay, we personally know there's a lot they could change with the current
Yeah, but that's
Puyo Tetris 1.0.
minor. It's it's
Yeah.
not minor, but it's like, how do you market that as a sequel? You need to have more
Add
than
more
just that.
Yeah, like, what would Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 have, you know? So,
viewer mode.
Yeah, I mean, they could.
yeah.
I'd
Yeah,
buy
so
it,
they have to
but
figure that out.
oh
But
no,
then
we've
there's also the
connected to the
possibility-
Sega Arika dimension. Why are these pieces moving so fast?
I guess unless you have anything else to add, Tucker, I guess for myself, when it comes to what to see in the future for this, I mentioned it previously how it's really dependent on how the Japanese views the sales for the Western copies of Puyo Puyo Tetris, as well with, as you mentioned, but the whole Switch copies set being the second highest Puyo Puyo Tetris sold in terms of copies. So, I mean, it really depends on that. In terms of the West, if they aren't going to do a Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, I can definitely see them localizing Chronicles to test the waters.
Yes.
And if it doesn't go so well with the Chronicles, then unfortunately that may be it for the whole Puyo Puyo train ride hanging on the coattails of Tetris. But either that, or I could see, like, you brought up before as well, I think Tucker did, where they would have their separate IPs, like where Puyo Puyo would still continue, and in Tetris they would use the Tetris characters to continue further from there. That would be kind of interesting to see, but ultimately the optimal output would be Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 in terms of both the localization and for the Japanese front. But outside of Fever Mode, trying to think off the top of my head, maybe they could add some more legacy options, like how you mentioned before, Kataru, the different modes of play that were requested for Tetris Ultimate. That could like make an addition. But for the casual crowd, you could say, oh hey, look, more adventure, more modes, more characters, and so on and so forth. So they could probably pull it off if they feel that it is marketable, considering how well received the Switch version was, both in Japan and in the West.
Yeah, it kind of boils down to sales. Like, I feel like Puyo Puyo Tetris is going to do a lot better in the West than it's been doing in Japan. Not to say...
Well, I mean, the online... Not that the online leaderboards are, like, comprehensive. How much is that right now? It's at, like, it's over 30K.
Yeah, and that's not counting the PS4
sure.
version, which I have no idea how many that sold. But since there's the Tetris name on Puyo Puyo, I feel like that's going to give it some longevity in terms of sales. Like, oh, hey, there's a Tetris game, I'll buy that. But...
yeah, I mean, just people like window shopping and be like, oh, hey, this looks cool. Let's
yeah,
get it.
but also, I don't know how strong or how confident Sega is in Puyo itself without Tetris, so...
Do you think they might try another soft reboot like Fever or 7?
Oh, please no more reboots.
I mean,
I don't think they need to
they'll just-
reboot.
I feel like it'll just be like a Puyo Chronicle remaster or something for Switch.
Yeah.
That's
If that-
probably what's
but, like-
going to happen, I think.
Yeah, if
'Cause-
that doesn't sell well, then I can see what Richard said in the case that it just ends, Puyo's no longer going to get localized, but...
Puyo Quest Forever.
Well, I mean, no, I think it can be different nowadays because we can show that Puyo Chronicle has, like, you know, a competitive scene. Like back in the Puyo Puyo Fever, that helped start the Japanese competitive scene to go into like the online realm. But that's because only Japan got the PC version, which had online. Nowhere in the West did we get the PC version, like in
Yeah,
NetPlay.
Richard could attest to that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But now we do have games that have NetPlay, so people can find out like that people are really good at the game. So
Yeah,
I think,
I mean, like, you help Sega make videos for their YouTube.
yeah. So people are able to find out now that there's more depth to what meets the eye in their crappy skills.
But they're always at a slight disadvantage, remember?
Oh yeah, there's that.
Like, I
Their
know
own
we talked a lot about
combination-wise.
in-depth about Tetris mechanics, but Puyo equally has as much in-depth mechanics when it comes to how it's played. Like, you have to observe your opponent, you have to know chaining patterns, you have to understand how to dig. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have to predict-
There's a reason why so many people make fighting game analogies with Puyo, especially.
Yeah, because I think Puyo Puyo in particular has a very, very good distinction between risk and reward between every single decision you make, whether it's just chaining or like harassing your opponent. Like, you have to consider, like, if I harass now, will I have enough resources to catch up and like make a decisive chain against them? Or do they have something prepared to, like, can I beat their harassment and still have a safe chain afterwards? Or what's the probability that like this setup that my opponent has now will turn into a harassment, or will it turn into like a long chain? So there's a lot you have to know. Like, I mean, there's just like lots of calculations going on, and that makes it what's really complex. And the fact that you actually do have to observe your opponent super hard. Like, there's like real mind games going on. And that's what I really appreciate about it.
Yeah. All right, Kataru. Life after Puyo Puyo Tetris. What do you want?
What do I want, or what do I think is going to happen?
Both.
Okay. What do I want? Well, what I want, I guess, is if it's going to stay in the more, like, guideline-y realm and, like, versus-focused, which is what I guess probably if something is going to happen, the more expected thing to happen would be another, like, guideline-y versus-oriented game. Then I would hope that somehow both Sega would see this and communicate this to the Tetris company and be like, oh, let's try adapting the guideline versus mechanics for once and addressing these balance concerns and having a better game for it, for the Puyo vs. Tetris matchup and for the Tetris vs. Tetris quality of life as well. What do I see probably happening? I have no idea. Like, the problem with being a Tetris fan is, like, you're just kind of along on the wave for the ride. And
you just get whatever Tetris game is for the console you currently own.
Yeah, you just get, like, whoever they made a contract with and whatever quality of game, and it could be improvements from last time or not improvements from last time or, like, really bad compared to last time just because of all, like, the weird decisions they made. And you have no idea. So,
yeah, based on like the release schedule now, it's basically like a tri-annual Tetris gacha. Like, will we get a good Tetris game this year?
yeah.
It's very unfortunate for you guys as well, considering that, like, you know, the Tetris company seems to outreach, but not really. And it's like, it's unfortunate that you have to, like,
it's very confusing.
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah,
In the case that they make a Puyo Puyo Tetris sequel, I think it's integral that they apply these balance changes. Otherwise, you guys are probably going to get disinterested.
No, the thing is, the producer of Puyo Puyo Tetris, Hasoyamada Mizuki, he actually legit does listen to the high-level players and incorporates their feedback as much as possible.
That's
what he
Puyo,
did for
though.
Well, no,
right?
also Puyo. Yeah. Well, mainly for Puyo, but I mean, even the Tetris players can attest to like how really broken it was back in the 3DS version.
Just from what I've heard, the Tetris company is really strict. So I don't know if they listen to the feedback or not. That's what I mean.
Well, I mean, it's not that they listen to feedback, it's how much can they actually do and still fall within guideline?
Right.
Yeah, like, I guess to, like, break it down a little bit is... It just seems like they want the guideline to be there because they had so many quality problems before, so they made it really strict about, like, okay, make this first. Like, be able to implement this Tetris game that we've literally described for you in this document with very little variation, because otherwise, like, it's just all over the place. And they want it to be, like, the same rule set for phones and handhelds and consoles and PC, and they don't want people to be confused by all the variation, like, and have to, like, learn this game and that game. They want Tetris to be, quote-unquote, Tetris. Like, they have a trademarked thing, and they want it to behave a certain way so people aren't, like, all over the place. And they only really make small concessions here and there, like, yeah, I guess you can do that as long as it conforms to these other guideline rules or something. And, like, Arika is the one developer that I guess is, like, really pushed back the most to try to make what they want to make, which is, like, an arcade Sega style, you know, Tetris game with, like, interesting things in it. But even they don't get away with everything. If you look at Tetris Grandmaster Ace on Xbox 360, it's basically not a very good TGM game, but it's maybe the best guideline, like, speed game, I guess. Like, it has modes that go fast and are, like, pretty well designed as far as, like, the engine goes. But not many people push back. They just are like, oh, well, we can't do that. Or they, like, try, like, for a little bit, but, like, what they want to do is, like, too far off from what the Tetris company will allow them to do, or they have, like, other concerns, which I think is what happened in the Tetris Ultimate case. Like, they're like, oh, let's try to do this. But the Tetris company's like, well, first make a game that doesn't, like, have gameplay bugs based on the guideline document. Like, make our game first. And then after that, they're like, well, we don't really want you to change the rotation tables or this or that, so make it the same as the guideline, but without wall kicks, which is really horrible under high gravity. Actually, if you look at, like, Tetris Ultimate on 3DS, it has, like, a Sega-style lock delay, like a TGM Sega style, where it's step reset because the Japanese team made it, and I think that's what they interpreted it as. But then the multi-platform one that was made in the US has this Nintendo style instant lock, so it becomes unplayable after a certain speed because all the pieces just lock immediately and the game ends. So yeah, you have certain things where, and then with the rotation, the classic rotation, it's just guideline rotation, but without wall kicks. So you have these situations where the piece lands on the stack and can't rotate unless you leave a space for it to rotate into, and not in a TGM way where you have to leave a space for that to rotate. No, L is flat on the stack and can't go anywhere because there's not a hole for it to move into. So there's crap like that. It's so that's what I see is if somebody tries to do something, they're told, here's the way you can do it and still conform with the guideline, and they try that, and then they don't push back to make it the right way. So unless you have somebody like Arika or plausibly Sega being well, that doesn't actually work, and really pushing and trying to negotiate and make something different, it's probably not going to happen. And I don't know when the next time it'll happen outside of an arcade. The last time that happened was TGMA, which was 2005 or whatever. So
I mean, I feel now that Puyo Puyo Tetris is out, I think this is the chance for both the Puyo and Tetris communities to really grow their competitive scene. So I think you'll finally be able to have a the thing is, I feel most of the Tetris guideline stuff is mainly because the target audience is casuals probably. So the fact that this is things get broken where you actually do high level play, it's not really a concern that affects most people who will be buying the game.
Yeah. But
if you can show the whole world that the games can play competitively and get more people aware about it, I think that's when players and the devs will actually finally have a voice to get some changes with the guidelines. So I mean, I feel this is our chance now. Puyo Puyo Tetris, I feel compared to other Tetris games, for guideline Tetris games, they really actually did get more I know many review sites are aware that this could be an esports game, and then we did spread the word about the Red Bull 5G and stuff, so we'll see. Yeah, maybe things can change. I have hope. Baseless hope, but
well, I don't know, it could. I'm hoping maybe we can do something there's the anime Evo thing going on. I'm hoping also maybe to get it in front of the people organizing the classic Tetris World Championship. We've had I think because the Tetris company was sponsoring one of the years, we had a PS4 Tetris Ultimate thing there at one point. So I would love for the PS4 or Switch or whatever version, the modern version, to be Puyo Puyo Tetris, and just have that be the tourney standard game on that side of things as well. So we'll see.
It'd be cool if there was a Western version of the Red Bull 5G.
Oh yeah, there would. Too bad there's not really a lot of players to choose from. Where are all the Puyo players? Where are they? Where? Why am I so lonely?
They're here.
Yeah. Alright, I think we're actually kind of over time right now, so I think let's try to wrap this up. If you could tell us where you could find you on social media, and then as a last parting gift, tell us what Puyo Puyo crossover you want to hear next. I know you mentioned Pound the Pun. I want you to go a little spicier. Right, Richard, first.
Alright, well, you can find me on Twitter at PamBamRich. You can find me on YouTube, PamBamRichard. I do playthroughs, I do random puzzle videos, things like that. Whatever comes to mind. Random variety channel. I'm also on Twitch, PamBamRichard as well. Check out Abyssal Chronicles, random plug for Tales people. But in any case, if I were to choose a very crazy Puyo Puyo crossover, I would say Puyo Puyo X Fire Emblem. Why not? Just incorporate some SRPG aspects and the combats be Puyo Puyo based. Sure, kind of like Chronicle in a sense.
Yeah, your color matters with the weapon triangle.
Yeah, exactly. So it's your colors also influence your field, and as well your within lines of the weapon triangle too.
Yeah. All right, S2, go.
Well, you can find me on Twitch and Twitter and YouTube at how do I say this? Stool Softener. But it's spelled S2L Softener. I hope that makes sense. I don't really do anything else in my life except play Puyo Tetris. So yeah, if you follow me, you'll see lots of actually high-level Puyo matches. I said that kind of well, anyways, I'm really good at Puyo, and I do play Tetris too. And I really love swap mode, so I hope I can stream that more. I just have to find more people who are good at both Puyo and Tetris. I know I've been running into a couple Japanese players I'm friends with now that are really good at both. So that's crazy, yeah. So like, you know, the top Tetris players in Japan, like Amamiya and Hibo Mai, they're actually low-key also really amazing at Puyo, which is really scary because I don't know, it just makes you feel inadequate that you're not both good at both games as them. But I'm gonna try hard. This will be my journey to.
Yeah, all right. Your dream Puyo crossover.
Dream? My what crossover? My dream crossover for what?
For Puyo.
Huh?
Let's just move on to the next one.
Puyo Puyo and more Puyo Puyo.
There you go.
All right, Kitaru.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at KitaruTC and Twitch. I think my Twitch is just Kitaru. Dream crossover? I don't know, I was trying to think of something like really weird. I was like, should I throw a shout out for like Puzzle Star Sweep or some like other like super obscure puzzle game? I don't know. No, let's do like a Street Fighter. Let's do a Puzzle Fighter X Puyo Puyo.
All right.
Well, at least we'll get the FGC community in, I guess.
Hey, wait, Puyo Puyo might actually win that matchup because a lot of Puzzle Fighter relies on the crash gems happening. If you don't get them, you basically can't set off your chain at all. Whereas in Puyo, you can react to everything, which is nice.
Oh, okay, let's switch that up then. Let's make it like Pochiton Ya, where you like you can create your breakers by pressing up.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, Tucker.
You can find me basically everywhere as MKSG, but I use my real name when it's applicable, like on Discord. Yay, Discord! Dream crossover? I don't know. I wanted to say Panel de Pon.
Well, you mentioned that, so pick another one.
Go crazier.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mentioned Fire Emblem, so see if you could go crazier than that.
I mean, I don't really play that many puzzle games besides Puyo and Tetris.
Yoshi's Cookie.
No.
Come on, Yoshi Cookie, give us some love.
I don't know. I guess just maybe Panic Bomberman?
Okay.
Hey, Panic Bomber, let's go.
Shin Megami Tensei.
Whoa, what?
Oh, Puyo Puyo across SMT, that'll be amazing. Yeah. Satan will
That's
be real.
links.
Wait, no,
Let's
I
do
mean
it.
Dark
Now
Prince.
let's play Puyo Puyo.
Okay, and as for me, you can find me on Twitter at RockRaining. I run a lot of Puyo tournaments. You can also find me on my own Twitter at _ Yatagarasu. That's YATAGARASU. And as for my dream Puyo collab, I don't know, God of War and Puyo Puyo?
Yo. Hold up. I'm curious. Like, why? I'm curious. I want to hear your theories.
Think about all those QTEs you could do in Puyo.
So it like frees up at the moment where like you're about to get a harassment, and then you have to like pick the right color Puyo to land like in a perfect position, and there you go.
And then you
Yeah,
mash on the
and
rotates a lot, and yeah.
Yeah.
Aries. Oh, just me.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. This is Puyo Nexus and Kitaru signing off.
Adios.
Bye.